Onto your headphones and pour your favorite beverage. It's time for the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. Now, fresh off the sidelines, your host, Matt McPeak.
Fantasy freaks and geeks, what is up? Welcome to the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. I am the host, Matt McPeak. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I was going to do a wide receiver breakdown, but you know what? There's plenty of wide receiver rankings and breakdowns out there. I figured I would give my opinion on some things that I saw in a draft that I did the other night. It was a half PPR 12-team league. It's a league that I joined this year. It's for my buddy over at the On and Off the Field podcast. They're actually they started a foundation or a fundraiser, and the winnings of this league are going to be pretty much everybody's entry fee was donated to the Boys and Girls Club for the Albany area, Albany, New York. So I'm glad I can be a part of that league. Glad I can be a part of a cool little donation that they're doing there. So again, we just had the draft the other night, and I just want to start this episode by going over some of the picks that really surprised me in that draft. And then tonight is Thursday, August 27th, and I just finished another draft. This draft was a non-PPR league, 10-team league. I am the defending champion in this league. Thank you very much. But so we'll get to that in the second half of this show. But we're going to start this show by going over some of the picks from that half PPR 12-team league that really surprised me. And the first one was Tyreek Hill going one pick before Davante Adams. I know that Tyreek was the number one wide receiver in all formats a couple of years ago. But the Packers did absolutely nothing to address the wide receiver spot, and Adams finished 6 spots higher in half PPR last year than Tyreek Hill. So I think that was somewhat surprising. I mean, it's kind of hard to nitpick first-round picks because they're all, obviously, they're first-rounders for a reason. They're all elite players, so you can't really go wrong with any of them. But for me, at least, I'm going with Davante Adams over Tyreek Hill in PPR formats. The next one was DeAndre Swift. He went with the first pick in the 4th round. Surprising to me to see a guy who has no guarantee of being the lead back going number 37 overall. I'm all for DeAndre Swift if I can get him in maybe the 6th, 7th round, but to take him in the 4th is a little too high for me. The next one was T.Y. Hilton going before Stephon Diggs, 9th pick in the 5th round. Hilton has been hurt a bunch over the past few years. He's a guy I'm avoiding in pretty much all of my drafts, and to go before Diggs was a big surprise to me. The Bills just gave up a lot to get Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to lead his new team in targets by a wide margin, and I think he's going to outplay T.Y. Hilton for sure. The next one is I got Deshaun Watson as the 8th quarterback off the board. According to Fantasy Pros ADP, which is the site I like to look for as far as ADP, because they take in the average draft position from many different sites, and they kind of average them all together. So he's going as the 4th quarterback in all 3 formats right now. So I was absolutely thrilled to get him in the 8th round. I know a lot of people are down on the Texans' offense this year with no DeAndre Hopkins, but I think that's actually a good thing for Deshaun Watson. I think he uses his legs a little more this year than he did last year, and I actually think they throw the ball more this year with no DeAndre Hopkins. Jeez, sorry about that. And then and with David and Duke Johnson as the top 2 running backs, both of them are much better as pass catchers than they are as running backs. So I think that's going to help out Deshaun Watson even more. The next one was Tyler Higbee was the 5th tight end off the board, and Gronk was 6th, ahead of Darren Waller, who was the PPR darling of last year. And the next guy that I'm going to mention, Hunter Henry, he went 1 pick after Higbee, 1 pick before me in the 8th round. I'm much more excited to draft Hunter Henry this year with the injury to Mike Williams, who's going to miss the first 2 to 4 weeks with a shoulder injury now. The next one was Justin Tucker, went in the 9th round, first kicker off the board. Ridiculous to me to take a kicker this early, even if it is the best kicker in the league. Again, this is a charity draft, so maybe this was kind of a goof pick, but to me, you play to win the game, so I don't care if you're playing for $1 or $100. I'm going to approach the draft the same way. So very surprising to see Justin Tucker go in the single-digit rounds. The next one is the 49ers defense went in the following pick. So we saw the first kicker and the first DST go in the 9th round. Also way too early, if you ask me. The next one was Daniel Jones, was the first backup quarterback taken with the with the second to last pick in the 9th round. He was the 12th quarterback overall. No, I'm sorry, 13th, because he was the first backup quarterback. So the 13th quarterback to go overall. He went ahead of Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, and Baker Mayfield. Very surprising to me to go before the 3 of them. I definitely would have taken all 3 of those guys over Daniel Jones, but that's just me. Antonio Gibson went at the end of the 8th round, which I'm very excited to go after Antonio Gibson in this draft, with Darius Geis getting cut for allegedly being a huge scumbag, and with Ron Rivera's comments about Gibson reminding him of Christian McCaffrey. But the 8th round, jeez. According to half PPR ADP, he's going 171 overall as of right now, and in a full PPR league, he's going 142. So he went way higher in this draft than I thought he was going to go. I figured I'd have a good shot at him in the 12th round, but he went in the 8th round, and then he actually went in the 10th round of the non-PPR league that I just finished up, which we'll get to in the second half of this podcast. But, yeah, again, very surprising. If you're somebody that is kind of targeting Antonio Gibson for, in those PPR leagues, you might want to go after him a couple rounds earlier. So Antonio Gibson goes in the 8th round. Then Dallas Goedert went before Jared Cook, Jared Cook, Mike Gesicki, and Noah Fant. I was surprised because Goddard is clearly the number 2 tight end in targets behind Zach Ertz on that Eagles team, where Cook, Gesicki, and Fant are all the number 1 guy on their teams. The next one is Chase Edmonds, went 1 pick before James White. I get it that Tom Brady is gone, but James White is 100% going to outplay Chase Edmonds this year. Unless there are injuries to James White or Kenyon Drake, I don't see how Chase Edmonds outperforms James White this year. Next one, Adrian Peterson goes in the 10th round. This was, again, a half PPR league, and with Peterson lucky to get a single target per game this year, and him splitting carries with Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson, Peyton Barber, J.D. McKissick. The 10th round is just way too early for me to take Adrian Peterson. Then in the 11th round, it started with 4 straight wide receivers: Brandon Cooks, Justin Jefferson, Jamison Crowder, and Christian Kirk. I was the one who took Jamison Crowder, who I think could have a pretty solid year in PPR formats with the Jets' much improved offensive line. We've seen it for years now. Adam Gase loves those short passing routes. He loves to get his wide receivers the ball in the shorter part of the field and let them run with the ball. So I was eyeing up Christian Kirk in the 12th round, but he went 1 pick after me in the 11th. But I found this group of wide receivers interesting. Justin Jefferson seems to have the least competition for targets this year amongst all of these players. But again, he's a rookie, so I ended up taking him in the non-PPR league that I did, which we'll get to that. But I was able to get him in, I think, the 15th or 16th round, so it's a lot different than the 12th round. Second to last, I took Jalen Reagor with the third pick in the 13th round, with wide receivers Mike Williams and Curtis Samuel, Mecole Hardman, Golden Tate were all still available, but I think Jalen Reagor is going to step into that Eagles team and perform. I think he's going to be expected to do a lot. He's going to get the ball, and with how much that wide receiving core just completely fell apart last year, I think Jalen Reagor could be a solid pick in the 13th round. And last but not least, I took the Chargers DST before the Vikings and before the Saints in the second to last round. I think the Vikings are getting drafted this year solely based off the fact that they've been a top 10 team for, 6 years now with under that head coach Mike Zimmer there. But they are going to have a completely new set of defensive backs. Like, they're literally going to be starting probably 3 or 4 rookies in the defensive backfield. Not a very good situation to be in a division in which you play with Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. So I'm not very high on the Vikings at all, and I love the Chargers defense. I actually took them in the draft that I just finished, which I will talk about in a little bit once I finish up this little section here. So I'm going to take a short little break, and then I'm going to drop in the pre-recorded round. I did a recap of every third or fourth pick during this non-PPR draft that I just did. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. All right, so it is the 5th round right now. I'm going to recap the first 4 rounds. So this is a standard league, a non-PPR league, 10-man team, normal roster, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, a tight end, quarterback, DST, kicker. So my strategy was to take 3 running backs with my first 3 picks. And DJ Moore just went. Can't believe he lasted all the way to the 5th round. Where is he at? Where is DJ Moore? Whatever, I'll get to it. Anyway, so I went 3 running backs, my first 3 picks. I have the 9th slot. It is a snake draft, so my first pick was Joe Mixon. I was able to pick between Mixon, Chubb, and Dalvin Cook, and with Dalvin Cook's injury past and him threatening to hold out, I wanted the sure thing. I went and took Mixon. Their offensive line in Cincinnati got a lot better this offseason, and with all those wide receivers there, I think Mixon should have a pretty good year. My second pick was Nick Chubb. I think in a standard league, he's a great number 2 running back. My third pick is Leonard Fournette. I think the Jaguars are going to run him into the ground this year, so I think he's great as a third running back. I can play him in my flex, or I can have him as my fill-in running back. When Mixon or Chubb is out on bye. So those are my first 3 picks. Then I wanted to take a wide receiver with my first pick in the 4th round, but Mark Andrews was sitting there available, and he was a huge part of me winning the championship last year. So I took him. So now I don't have to worry about tight end until the last pick. I'll probably just take maybe Jack Doyle or somebody like that as a backup tight end. So I'm pretty happy with my first 4 picks. I'm up in 2 picks, and I'm looking for either Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, or Cortland Sutton. So hopefully one of those 3 will be available because none of them have been picked yet. So that's my first 4 picks, and I will be back after another couple of rounds, and we'll recap my 5th and 6th picks. So we just finished the 6th round. Again, I wanted to get a wide receiver with my 3rd pick. I was hoping to get with my 4th pick. Sorry, with my 4th and 5th pick, I wanted to get 2 wide receivers, and I was eyeing up Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, and Cortland Sutton. Unfortunately, because I went with Mark Andrews with my 4th pick, only one of those 3 wide receivers was available for me. So luckily, it was the guy I was the highest on out of the 3, who is Calvin Ridley. He's a 3rd-year wide receiver. He's got a crap load of talent around him. So I went with Calvin Ridley, and I'm excited about it. My next pick was kind of, again, I wanted to get another wide receiver, and I was caught between DJ Shark and Devontae Parker. I think because of how many wide receivers have opted out of the from the Dolphins team, I decided to go with Devontae Parker, which I cannot believe I did it, but he had a great year last year. He should be number 1 on the team in targets. He should score the majority of their touchdowns in the passing game at least. So that gives me my number 1 and 2 wide receivers of Calvin Ridley and Devontae Parker. Just concluded the 8th round. I'm not ecstatic about my team so far, but I don't hate it either. I couldn't help myself with Mark Andrews, and so far that has kind of, I don't want to say derailed me, but it has screwed me up a little bit, kind of messed up my whole draft board. But I'm glad to take the guy that led the league in touchdowns among tight ends last year, Mark Andrews. So, again, I'm not super thrilled with my team so far, but I'm not. I don't hate it. So I got, again, Mixon, Chubb, Fournette, Andrews, and then Calvin Ridley, Devontae Parker. The 7th round started a huge run on quarterbacks. My guy, Deshaun Watson, that I really wanted, he went. Then Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, then went Kyler Murray. So I was kind of forced to take Matt Ryan, who, again, he's not somebody I was overly excited to take, but he's one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the league. He's not going to give me anything with his legs, but hopefully the other quarterback that I want later in the draft will be there, and that's another statue of a quarterback in Phillip Rivers. I think he's going to have an awesome season, so hopefully he's there for me towards the end of the draft. If not, I'm kind of eyeing up Daniel Jones. I do kind of want to have some exposure to one of these running quarterbacks. This is a league in the Philadelphia area, so I don't think anybody's going to be going after Daniel Jones. I think Dak Prescott was also taken in that quarterback run in between Deshaun Watson and when I went Matt Ryan. So, yeah, so far so good. I think I do need to focus on wide receivers from the 9th pick on. So I'm kind of eyeing up guys like Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, another 3rd-year wide receiver that I think could have a standout year. I might even take a shot on Will Fuller, which is kind of crazy too with how much he's injured. But again, with the wide receiver situation being what it is in Houston, he definitely has a rapport with Deshaun Watson, and I think this year, more than ever before, I think continuity is going to be a big thing. So I'll be looking for Will Fuller maybe in the 11th, 12th round or something like that. But so we will pick it up again with the 9th pick. If Ronald Jones is still available for me at the end of the 9th pick, I think I might have to go with him just because of how much upside he has. And again, this is a standard league, non-PPR, so I'm trying to load up on as many high upside running backs as I can. So I think my next two picks, if all goes well, might be Ronald Jones and Christian Kirk. Maybe I should go with Christian Kirk first, just so I can lock up a third wide receiver, somebody that I'm definitely high on. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking to do in the 9th round. All right, so we just had my pick, which was the second pick in the 12th round. I'm going to go back to my 9th round pick. We just took our little break, so I was able to get Christian Kirk. I'm super high on him. I think Larry Fitzgerald's going to draw, and DeAndre Hopkins are going to draw so much attention. I think Christian Kirk is one of the best breakout candidates this year with all that talent that they have on the Texans. My next pick was another guy that I had no intention of taking, and that was Julian Edelman. Obviously with Tom Brady there, Edelman fell to the 10th round, which probably is the lowest he's ever been drafted since his rookie year, I'm going to assume. I think he could be one of the standout players. Getting him in the 10th round, he could be, the number one wide receiver there in New England with Cam Newton. And yes, I get it, Cam Newton is not Tom Brady, but Cam Newton is still a former MVP quarterback. So I like the pick. My next pick was again another guy that I really had no intention on taking, and that was Daniel Jones. Again, this league, quarterbacks go, and actually after my pick, we have already started to see another run on quarterbacks go with the before I mentioned Cam Newton. So I wanted to be able to lock down a second quarterback. So I went with him. Then my next pick was Mike Gesicki, tight end of the Dolphins. I'm not crazy about having Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki, but Gesicki was used a lot last year on Miami. He had one of the highest ADOTs of all the tight ends. He was targeted down the field. He was targeted short. So with all of the wide receivers opting out in Miami, and with the possibility of their new rookie quarterback starting, I love having tight ends on teams with rookie quarterbacks. So I took Mike Gesicki there. He's my backup tight end. Maybe if him and Mark Andrews end up after the 4th or 5th week, maybe if both of them are in the top 10, maybe I can use one of them as a trade piece. So that was the second pick in the 12th round. I will check back maybe after the 14th round. There's 17 rounds in this draft, so stay tuned. So it is now the middle of the 16th round, the second to last round. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to my 13th pick. The second rookie that I've taken, something that I usually don't do. I usually don't draft rookies, but I really think the rookie class this year is going to make some big impacts. So I took Henry Ruggs III. He should be the number one wide receiver in Oakland. Maybe Hunter Renfrow might end up leading all Raider wide receivers and targets, but I think Henry Ruggs should be a big player for them. So I'm excited about him. Then in the 14th round, I went and got the second running back for the Minnesota Vikings, Alexander Mattison. I'm not one to draft based off of, if the guy ahead of him gets hurt, but if Dalvin Cook were to get hurt, Alexander Mattison is going to be a monster. So I went with Alexander Mattison in the 14th round. The 15th round, I went with another rookie, Justin Jefferson. He was a first-round pick or a second-round pick, I believe. I think he was a first-round pick this year. I don't think he's going to step in and get all of the targets that were left behind by Stephon Diggs, but he should at least be able to get 75% of those targets. And I know Diggs got well over 100 last year, so Diggs was used all over the field. He was a deep target. He was a shallow target. He was used on third down. So I think Justin Jefferson could be one of the standout players, and to get him in the 15th round, I think is pretty solid value. Then in the 16th round, I got my DST, the Los Angeles Chargers. With that pass rush that they have and the secondary, I think they could have one of the best secondaries in the league. They have a safety who I think could be the best, what I like to call tight end erasers in Derwin James. He should see plenty of targets, which hopefully opens up the book for some interceptions. That tandem of pass rushers working with that secondary, I think the Chargers defense can really put pressure on other teams, can really force a lot of turnovers, get a lot of sacks, especially in the AFC West with those high-powered offenses. You got the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. You got all these young wide receivers that were drafted this year between Jerry Jeudy and not Cole Hamels. I forget the other wide receiver for the Broncos. You got my boy Henry Ruggs. You got Lynn Bowden. So a lot of young talent brought to the AFC West. And then in the 17th round, I'm hoping to get Matt Gay, kicker from the Buccaneers. But it looks like he was just taken, and so was Robbie Gould and Elliott from the Eagles. So I'm going to be forced with some slim pickings here. Maybe, hopefully, Matt Prater will be available. We'll have to wait and see. But it is kickers; doesn't really matter all that much. But that's my team so far. If you guys like it, let me know. If you don't, let me know. Hopefully, this team works out for me. I am the defending champions. Hopefully, I can take home another championship here. So, thanks for tuning in. That is going to do it for this episode. As always, may the fantasy gods be cruel to your opponents.
You have been listening to the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. For more great episodes and information, follow us on social media and tune in every week. Kickin' or Stickin' is available on Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Alexa, Reach.tv, or your favorite podcast service. Kickin' or Stickin' is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. To find out more about this and other great shows on our network, visit us online at hcuniversalnetwork.com today. Fantasy football is fun, but gambling addiction destroys lives. If you or someone you love suffers from gambling addiction, please do not be afraid to seek help. The National Council on Problem Gambling operates the National Problem Gambling Helpline Network. Contact them today at 1-800-522-4700. Thank you for tuning in to the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. Please remember to play responsibly and always look for your man downfield.